I recently got a thoughtful comment on one of my videos. They asked, how can you plan a full D&D campaign if you're only preparing one session at a time? Like, how do you make session 1 connect to session 20? And it's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of a philosophy I have about running campaigns. And it's a style that might feel a little different if you're used to running published adventures at your table. Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we love geeky wisdom. If you're new to the channel, I'm Brian. Today I want to talk about campaign planning as a whole, and how we can connect encounters to building engaging sessions, and then connect those sessions into an evolving campaign. This is inspired by that viewer's comment, and I think it gets right to the heart of how I plan and run campaigns. So today I'm going to walk you through my method of long-term campaign planning, one that works whether you're using tools like ChatGPT or not. We'll cover how I start with a clear campaign question, how I use an encounter response structure to shape story progression, and how this makes for a living campaign. Way back in my How to Plan a D&D Campaign video, I shared one of the first tools I use, the campaign story question. It's a simple structure. When something happens, the characters pursue a goal. But will they succeed when an antagonist provides opposition? So this gives me direction and stakes from the start. So let's use the commenter's question and shape it into a story-driven question. When a legendary treasure is said to be locked behind an ancient vault, a group of adventurers must steal the key from a powerful noble. But will they succeed when rival agents seek the key for themselves? Now that's the kind of question that can work for a one-shot, but it can also fuel an entire campaign. I don't need all the answers to that question up front. That's actually not the point. I do need this to help guide every encounter that I build. So let's go back to the original comment. If you're only prepping one session at a time, how does ChatGPT connect session 1 to session 2 to session 3 all the way to session 20? Short answer, it doesn't. And it shouldn't. Sure, you could ask something like ChatGPT or any tool to outline the full arc ahead of time. For example, you could say, help me outline a story where my group must steal a key to unlock a powerful treasure in over 20 sessions. And you'd probably get a solid framework, act structures, conflict beats, and plot ideas for each phase. But that's not how I plan my campaigns. I understand why publishers sometimes plan that way, because they're creating a ready-made story you can pick up and run. And those adventurers are great. You can get a lot of ideas and figure out how to work in all the mechanics. But I want my campaign story to develop at the table. The players are shaping the world. Their characters are the ones battling the villains, shifting the political powers around, and recovering ancient relics. And when each story arc wraps up, another can rise in its place. So that's why I treat my campaign story question as one long arc within my campaign world. And as the answer to that question evolves, so does the world. Factions react, new threats emerge, another story question can rise, and the cycle continues. The world reacts to the players just as much, if not more, than they react to it. So with a solid campaign story question, I can follow a simple structure to plan my sessions. Encounter, encounter response. The players face a challenge, some kind of combat, social interaction, exploration, whatever, even a skill challenge. And then there's an encounter response. What happens because of it? They can regroup, think about things, and then plan their next move. Their response to what just happened and the choices they made and how things played out is important. But the response is also for me. I need to reflect on what's changed for them and the villains, NPCs, because the outcome of the encounter, the response of the players, the NPCs, and the environment, they shape what happens next. This idea is inspired by the scene sequel format, developed by writing coach Deborah Chester and used by authors like Jim Butcher and the famous Dresden Files series. In a novel, a scene presents a goal, a conflict, and a result, followed by a sequel that shows the character's reaction, and dungeon masters can use it to plan campaigns. But here's the difference. In a book, the author controls all the characters. In a campaign, Dungeon Masters don't. We control the world, the setting, the factions, the NPCs, all that stuff, but the players control their characters, which is why you cannot plan the end. All their choices have to drive the story as much, if not more, than ours as the DM. I use encounter response to build open-ended momentum. The players act, the NPCs in the world respond, and then that ripple effect determines what happens next. It's not just what the players do, it's what the other characters choose, how the environment shifts, and how the campaign story question adapts in response. And that's how the game stays dynamic, surprising, and alive for the players. let's go back to that story question. When a legendary treasure is said to be locked behind an ancient vault, a group of adventurers must steal the key from a powerful noble. But will they succeed when rival agents seek the key for themselves? That's the big picture. Maybe Session 1 opens at a masquerade ball hosted by a noble, and adventurers have to gather intel and make contact with an insider or sneak into a restricted wing of the estate. And maybe the rival group is trying to steal the key that same night. Now from there, I can plan potential encounters. A social challenge with the noble or the guards, a stealth or deception challenge like a skill challenge to reach the vault, a rival agent who shows up mid-heist with their own plan. Now, each of these potential encounters creates opportunities for the players to act, however they choose. And the story doesn't stop there, because the response is just as important. I don't lock in what will happen. Instead, I make notes for how the world and the NPCs might respond to the player's actions. Like, if the players work with the insider, they get access, but might owe a favor. If they get caught, then the noble becomes a future enemy. Or if the rivals get the key, maybe there's a chase or, a stealth mission to follow them wherever they're going. But what if the players do something I did not plan for at all? Well, that's where improv comes in. I might need to improvise an encounter if they take an unexpected path, because they probably will. And that's okay, because the encounter response structure helps us stay flexible and grounded into what's actually happening, not just what somebody wrote on a page before. And I'm working on an improv framework video that might help you when this comes along, so stay tuned. Then, after the session, I have to write down what actually happened. What choices did the players make? How did the rivals, the NPCs, or the setting respond, or how might they respond in the future? What changed in the world as a result? Or what could potentially change? For example, maybe the players escaped with the key, but the ballroom caught fire, and now the noble is rallying others to go hunt them down. Well, that sets the stage for a session 2, because they're on the run. And that's how the campaign story question fuels a living campaign. It's not just the player's decisions, it's also the PC's actions and the environment of the setting itself, all weaving together. The key is tracking this cause and effect, which is one of the reasons I use tools like ChatGPT to help me organize all that stuff, but not create any of the content, just keep track of it so I don't get lost in the shuffle. Published adventurers have to have a little bit more, not railroady built in, but enough resources to help drive major plot points. And that's fine. I think you can learn from a lot of that. And that's one of the reasons why I suggest people run a published campaign first, so you can see how things fit together pretty well. But then when you're doing it yourself, you should have things evolve at the table, but you have to have a little bit of experience to be able to do that. Even if the party has a clear goal in any given session, the campaign itself stays open-ended, for me at least, and it keeps the narrative alive. So even when I prep a dungeon or a location with specific rules, I don't plan it in a locked path. I plan options. What if the players sneak in? What if they negotiate? What if they leave? I prep what's needed as best I can. I have some stat blocks ready, some social dynamics, some environmental hazards, and I stay flexible. A really great resource for all of this stuff prepping for a session itself is Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master by Mike Shea. So there are lots of checklists that can help you organize things, but like I mentioned in my other video, I've already started to organize things differently. For me at least, it's all been really helpful to use ChatGPT for the organization. Not for writing, not for creating, just for organization. Here's the truth. You don't need to know how your campaign ends. You'll be discovering it. You just have to have a central question that helps drive it. Okay, so if any of this rang true for you, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. But you can also sign up for our Geek Philosophy monthly newsletter and get a free campaign planning guide. The link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and remember, prep for your players, not just the plot. Cheers.